Great awakening, light lords, and grand rising to those who have not yet awoken. To know that basically everything is a democratic government. It's by the people for it's by the people for the people. No matter whether you're under any dictatorship, autocracy, oligarchy. I mean, it really doesn't matter. What it is the collective consciousness basically controls the reality, controls the state of dimension. It controls the state of the plane of this place we call Earth. Okay, no matter what language you speak or what cultural tradition or whatever type of so-called race you are, which we're all the human race. None of that matters. It's about the collective consciousness. All of our consciousnesses, all of the conscious beings, fully. I mean, all of the conscious beings basically putting their heads together and making their reality, making that world. Okay, this is what's happening right now. Okay, people are becoming more conscious that they create their own realities, and now we're putting our heads together and looking back, saying, okay, we were unconsciously doing things, learning. Okay, we were unconsciously doing a whole lot of things, like how seeds, are planted in the ground. They're unconscious. Okay, they're unconscious. But then once they get that water, which symbolizes knowledge, is everything in the universe is symbolism, everything in reality is symbolism, everything in nature is symbolism, which symbolizes knowledge. Then they get the right amount of sunlight, which basically is how they use the knowledge, how they express the knowledge, or how they take in the information. Okay, how you perceive it, how you receive the information, and then take in that information and begin to grow up out. You grow up out of the ground. Okay, they grow up out of the darkness. And as you're growing out of the darkness, like this seed, this plant is growing up out of the ground, you basically are in ignorance. You're just basically unconscious of really what's going on, but you're learning. Okay, that raising up through the ground is that learning process, and then once you come out to the light, that's when you actually have beliefs and different ideologies you can hold on to. You're consciously aware of it, different parts of yourself. You're consciously aware of it. And then once you take those different parts of yourself that you're consciously aware of and begin to learn more and more, and you'll begin to, that plant begin to sprout flowers or fruit, or, create other seeds, basically spreading the information. Okay. And once we become more conscious of this, and we'll be able to, sprout out fully and become a big tree and giving good fruit. The thing is, everything is based off supply and demand. This is the law of commerce, and the law of commerce applies internationally. That means no matter what so-called government you're under, no matter none of that matters. Okay, everything is based off supply and demand and commerce. So if the people want it, then the people that so-called over those people have to give it to them. Okay. And the reason we have a lot of, discourse and a lot of misinformation going on is because a lot of people are not conscious. They're not conscious of all of the misinformation in the world. So they can't, demand, they can't, they're in a state of lower self. They're in a state of lower vibrations, and they're not even conscious of what they need to demand. Okay, they're demanding even more lower things because they're in the lower environments, and they're in lower situations. And that's all they can see is from a lower perspective what they actually want. They can only see materials. They can only see things, books, like literal. They can only read books and take it as literal information. They don't see everything as symbolism because they're not connected with the highest version of their natural selves. Okay. Now they're connected with the lowest version, not the lowest, but lower versions of their natural selves, which is why they ask for things that they think of as higher, but are actually lower because they're lower. So once you begin to get into a new mind state, actually become more conscious of what you're doing, then what you ask for, okay, it'll be something that is equivalent to how you are or what you're being. Okay, what you are being is what you attract. Okay, and what you're not being is what you repel. Automatically, it's automatic. It's in sync. It's a constant unison. Okay, it's a constant reciprocation of information, a cycle, a wheel constantly turning. So what we need to, or what I want, people to understand is that there are a lot of people, that so-called idols and stars, celebrities that know about this information. They know about, like, they literally know. They don't believe. They don't just study, and believe and just say, and don't apply it to their lives. There are people that, that got, so quote unquote famous, or got, money, whether they're famous or not, and, became wealthy because they actually understand the laws and principles, the hermetic laws and principles of nature, and they use them. Okay, they use them on a daily basis. But see, the thing is that if they actually came out about this information, okay, a while ago, like before people, before the majority of people, before the sheeple, the so-called sheeple, I don't like calling them sheeple, but the so-called unconscious people, the not fully conscious or awakened people, um, they would have lost a lot of followers if they would have came out about it a long time ago, when people weren't as awoke as we are now, as if the collective consciousness wasn't as awoke. And now a lot of these artists and celebrities and different TV personalities and online personalities, they're coming out with this information because people are, the cycle is repeating itself. The cycle is repeating itself, and people are becoming more conscious again of this information. Now, see, back in the 70s, people started coming over here, and in America, people, regardless of what nation you're from, the international trade of information, started taking hold, because people from America was going overseas, not telling the government or nothing, not telling anybody what they're doing, and just, researching, just going over there, experiencing life, and then taking all the information and bringing it back to America, like different transcendental meditations and yoga and spiritualities, ancient spiritualities of the original people, so-called black people, which everyone's brown, there's no such thing as black, but the original people of the sun were very dark. Okay, so they started taking all this information and it started spreading, and people started waking up in the 70s. Okay, people started waking up like how we are today, like how we disperse information, hermetic laws and principles in the universe, and getting everything together, knowing that all these gods are really one God, and it's just fine-tuned specifications depending on what type of personality you have and what specific part of nature you're connecting with, and all of that. Like, it's all different types of information, but to sum it all up, basically we started awakening. And it's just like how the kundalini rises and it rises and lowers and rises and lowers until it's completely fully awoken, to where it's constantly spinning in a perfect unison. Just like the kundalini energy, we woke up in the 70s, and people was hippies, and it was the disco thing going on, and people just basically just waking up, and black power things started coming. Basically people just started taking hold. They started becoming conscious of themselves. They started taking a hold onto the ideology of self. Okay, the ideology of self, whether they were conscious of the ideology of just self itself or not. They were conscious that they needed to become more conscious of what reality they're in, and use the things in their environment to actually get them to a new environment, or recreate their environment to better themselves. Okay, recreate their environment to better themselves. And then that all dimmed down once once the government, well, not when I say the government, I basically mean like people that are ignorant, people that are ignorant. Okay, whether they know the information or not, they're ignorant because they ignore the benefits of it. Okay, they ignore the benefits of it, and they ignore the fact that once you give this information out, righteously and diligently, that you can change, everything. And even if they know that, they just basically don't care. They just like, okay, I want to do what I want to do because I'm in my lower self, and I want to stay in my lower self because I enjoy lower self stuff. There are people out there that just like lower self stuff. And since we weren't as conscious as, what I'm saying, to actually fight them off, mentally, to actually demand more consciousness, and to actually demand that ignorance, be dealt with at that time. They invaded in the, after the 70s or whatever, and people started waking up. Right after people started waking up, they came with way more ignorance, like put crack in the streets, started compartmentalizing people again. Just basically made a rabbit hole, basically made a wormhole in the matrix, and a deeper part of the matrix, another box. Okay. So then we went back to sleep. Now people are waking up again after the 2000s because they thought the world was gonna end. People are waking up again, and we starting to demand this information. But what I want to tell you is, and then we started demanding more information again. And what I want to tell you is once we start demanding this information, you can't stop. Like, don't stop demanding this information. No matter what they put on TV, no matter what they put in the news, no matter what, scare tactics, because they would use a lot of scare tactics like that 2012 stuff, the Mayan calendar. Everybody that studied the Mayan calendar knew that the clock was that clock was just that clock that they made. That calendar is actually symbolizing, a new beginning. It wasn't symbolizing the end. Like, it wasn't no, bro. It ain't no such thing as no end. It's only an end to the conscious mind. The subconscious mind does not end. Okay, and then once the conscious mind ends, it starts over again. Okay, so really nothing ever ends. So this was, this wasn't, very common information, but people who knew that, they weren't scared. These are fear tactics, okay? These are fear tactics to keep you in a lower state of vibration so that you won't demand more truth, okay? Just like the story, of hell and all that, Gehenna and stuff like that. The hell is, ignorance. Hell is ignorance, okay? You're already in hell if you're not searching for more truth, if you're not applying the knowledge, if you're not actually going out and doing rituals and practicing all of this stuff and actually seeking for deeper information and more specifications on really what's going on with all this, religion and spiritualities. So it's supply and demand around here.
Pizza for
it's supply and demand around here. And oh, really?
I made it for you.
Oh, it looks great. Mushrooms, bell peppers on that thing. Also got hook on there too.
And tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
And
Bacon. And cheese. But we all have the ability to keep demanding. And this scare tactic they did in 2012. After people kept demanding the knowledge, they did that scare tactic in 2012 about the Mayan calendar, and people started getting scared again. Like, oh man, 2012 gonna be the end of the world, bro. There ain't no such thing, man. We just gotta keep supplying. We just gotta keep demanding that everything. You see, the lower self, okay, the people that's trying to control us, the people that plan on controlling us, and just basically doing what they want with us because they're lower selves, that think they're higher selves. They basically have trapped themselves in their own laws, okay? Their own laws and principles. So basically what's going on is if you don't demand it, then they're not going to supply it. And if they can't supply it, then you're going to have to supply it for yourself. Okay? This is how it's going to work. Supply and demand is what we need to be focused on. The laws of commerce, the international laws of commerce through the United Nations. Okay? So we need to demand more, more information, more conscious information to, demand all of these truths to be revealed. There's a lot of half-truths out there. There's a lot of half-truths that have been revealed. And, people have become more conscious off of those half-truths, but we need to put these truths together, start looking at everything from different perspectives and symbolism. Looking at everything as symbols, looking at everything as symbols. Once you start looking at everything as symbols, then, oh my gosh, like everything is going to, change. Like everything is you're going to die daily. And when I say die, I mean just transform. Death is only transforming from one state to the next. And that's energy, and everything is energy, and you are energy. So energy cannot be transformed from one state to the next. And that's symbolism for your mind. So when you use that symbolic representation of what actual energy does with your mind, then you're changing your mind daily. So we need to supply and demand this information more. Okay? We need to demand this information, and if it cannot be supplied, if it comes down to it, it cannot be supplied by those who so-called rule us, by those who so-called are over us, as what I mean by government, by government officials or whatnot. Then we need to take our own self and start to self-government. Okay, start to self-government and actually supply for ourselves. Go out in nature, run off, disconnect from the system, and get our own stuff together. Okay, and go out in nature and observe it, because that's what science is. Science is the observation of nature. Go out in nature, connect with nature, and practice ideals and moralism that we get from the symbolism that we see out in nature. So I am JAH, and I am here to live out and teach higher wisdom as an example for the collective consciousness. And no matter where you are on the earth, you're in democracy because you're under the will of the collective consciousness. So in order for you to change your reality, you must first go within yourself and see how your consciousness affects everything outside of you, and help to aid other people through that. Okay, through what you get from your inner self, from your higher self. Okay, and to aid the collective consciousness, to aid the other parts of yourself, the other parts of your conscious minds within your subconscious mind that help you create the reality that you perceive. So yeah, that's all I really want to say, man. Share, subscribe, go add my other social media pages. Let's get this knowledge out here. I love myself. Peace, peace, peace.